Hi, this is Bill Brokaw, and this video is about Adobe Lightroom, and we're going to focus on the library module in Lightroom. When you first open Lightroom, this is the interface that you see, and right now we're in a catalog that's called the default catalog, which comes automatically with the program, and when you load Lightroom onto your computer, at least on an Apple, they're located here in Documents. This is the default catalog. And you can see that's the file name, catalog.lrcat, which stands for Lightroom Catalog. And if I look at the top of the screen, you can see there's the name of the catalog. I generally don't work in the default catalog. I like to make a brand new catalog for my photos. So to start a new catalog, I go to File, New Catalog, and I want to put my catalog on my desktop. So I'm going to save it as Photos 2020. So let's see what we got here, Photos 2020. And I'm going to put the name Lightroom afterwards, so I identify this folder. And there it is. There's our new catalog. And now it says Photos 2020 at the top instead of catalog. And if we go to the desktop, so if I just drag this out of the way, here's my desktop, and I have my raw files. There's my photos are in this folder. And then I have a new folder called Photos 2020 Lightroom. That's what I just made. And inside of it are the actual files. So when I made a new catalog, Lightroom actually made a new folder for me. And then within the folder are the execution file, plus additional files that make the program work. And so the first thing that I want to do is to import some photos. So I'm going to go to the Import button down here in the bottom, and then I'm going to navigate to where my photos are. So I'm going to go to my hard drive and find my desktop. And on my desktop are those raw files, 2020. So I'll click on those. And these are all the photos that are in that folder that I just pulled off my camera and put right there in the folder. So now I can import all these. They're all checked off. See, they're checked. I can uncheck them. If I uncheck them, it won't import any of them. And if I check it, check all the photos will get imported. Right, so we can see that. I can decide not to import some of the photos just by unchecking one or two. And if I uncheck it, it drops down here to the bottom where I could check it again. So I'm going to bring in all of these photos. And I do that by hitting the Import button over here in the bottom right corner. Some of the photos are geotagged, so I can enable address lookup, and I'll just say go ahead and add that. So now all my photos are in the catalog. They're actually still in their original folder. The files haven't moved. Lightroom is now just seeing them and giving us the ability to work on them. So in a way, this is sort of a virtual file that only exists in Lightroom. And if we look up here on the side over here, and over at the top, And on the other side, you can see that this interface has 5 parts to it. Right in the middle is the main window. This is where we can see our photos. We can look at them in this grid view. Or if we go to the bottom, there's another view called loop view. And if I have a photo selected, like this dog, and I hit loop view, it makes it large. Or I can go back to grid view. Over here on the left side, in the left panel, is where our photos are located. They're in a folder, how many photos we brought in, and then certain things about what they call collections, and we'll go over that. On the right-hand side is information about the file. So metadata, and some keywording and that kind of stuff. At the bottom is the film strip. So we can go from photo to photo. If we're in loop view, we can change which photo we're looking at. And at the top are the different modules. So we're in the library module. There's also the develop module for processing our photos, the map module for geotagging, and you can see that some of the photos are geotagged. I can also look at this as a satellite view, so I can see where the photos are. I can create a book. So this is the book. See, it actually makes a book for me right to start with. And there's modifications over here for that. I can do a slideshow. So here's a slideshow. It sets up a slideshow for me. And again, over here on the right panel, this is where all our controls are, all different things that you can do with a slideshow, all the different options. There's a print option, or a print module, and we can print out our photos. We can also make contact sheets where there's multiple photos on a single sheet. If we were to select all of our photos, so let's say I'll select all of them. So I can make a contact sheet that has all the photos on it. And I can also make some simple web pages. So I can make online galleries of my photos. So you click on that, it shows it big. So those are the modules, and each one will have its own interface. The main window and the film strip and the modules pretty much stay the same, but the right panel and the left panel are going to change based on which module you're in. And so now we're working in the library module, so we're going to stick here. So I showed you how to import files from your computer, your hard drive, and now I'm going to show you how you can import files from your card. So if you just don't want to load your files onto your hard drive first, you just want to insert your card into your computer and import from there, that's entirely possible too. And so what I'm going to do, I'm in the library module. I'm just going to insert a card here into my computer. And Lightroom automatically recognizes that I put a card in, and it goes into this import function. And here on the left-hand side of the screen, it says, where am I importing from? I'm importing from No Name. And every time I format my card, that's what the camera calls it, No Name. So that's the name of my card. And within my card, I have the DCIM folder, and then I have the 100 Oldham folder, and this is where my files are located. So these are a bunch of photos that I have on my card, right? And some of them are already in the catalog. So Lightroom recognizes that and won't import them again. I had copied these files onto my hard drive and imported them. So what if I want to import just from the card? So the process is pretty similar. The photos are all checked. I can uncheck them and just check certain ones that I want to bring in. Say I want to bring in a couple of flower photos. And see how it jumps to the front here if I click them? And then this is real important over here on the right side, is where do I want those files to be imported to? Where on my computer? And there are several different functions over here. And we're most important we're most interested in the destination of these files. So I'm going to collapse these. And let's look at destination. Lightroom, if I don't tell it what to do, Lightroom is going to put my files into my hard drive in my pictures folder. And I don't really want them in my pictures folder. I want them in the folder that I selected. So when I import from my card onto my hard drive, I'm going to have to make sure that I'm really particular about where they go. And I want them to go to my desktop, and I want them to go into this folder called Raw Files. And that looks pretty good. I'm just going to bring in these 4 photos, and I'll hit the import button, and they're coming in. And so this is my latest import, these 4 photos. These are all my files, see, all photos or previous import. Now, if I had another folder on my hard drive, say on my desktop, and let's make another folder just to show something here. So there's raw files. I'll make a new folder called second folder for illustration. And we'll close up. And my card was automatically ejected, so I have to reinsert it. And when I do, I'm going to get that import window. Here it is again. And so I'm going to go to my photos, and it has recognized that some of these photos are already in the catalog, so they're grayed out. So let's bring in some more photos. I think we have plenty of flowers. How about we bring in a picture of a sign? So I'm going to uncheck everything, and I'll check this one, and I'll check this movie theater, and I'll check this library. Just these 3. Where do I want them to go? Well, for this time, just for illustration, I want to put them into a second folder. And these were taken in a town called Wind Gap, so maybe I could even call that second folder Wind Gap. And I can start to organize my files just by the way I bring them in and where I put them on my hard drive. So I'm going to put it into second folder, and I'm going to say import. And it's bringing in those 3 folders. There's my previous import, which is those 3 folders. 3 files. All my photos. All right, so I have all photos in here. And now I have files that are located in 2 different folders. And so if we go back here to my desktop, See here in second folder, I have those three files. And then in the raw files, I have the rest of them. And so we're going to close that. And now we can look at, let's say we want to start to make little selections, like which we think are the best photos maybe for today. I can make what's called a quick collection. What's a quick collection? There's no photos in the quick collections, but if I want to make a quick collection, say of dogs, I hit this little circle in the upper corner, and I do that for each of the photos that I want to put in this collection, and they're there. See, here they are. So that's one way of organizing your photos right within Lightroom, and I can unselect them so they're not in the quick collection anymore. We also look below this, and there are folders. So if I look at all the photographs, there's 53 photos in the catalog. I can look at just the ones that are in the second folder, those three. Or I can look at the ones that are in the original folder. And there's 50 in here, and there's 3 in the other. So already we're starting to see how Lightroom can start to sort and organize and tell us where our photos are and give us the ability to make our own little folders that are within Lightroom and not necessarily on our hard drive. And that's what we did with the quick collection. And I could make another quick collection. Let's say I want to just have, a couple of flowers. So I go through and I look for some of my flower photos. There's another one, there's another one. And now I have a quick collection of just flower photos. So it's called a quick collection because it's not really intended to be permanent. It's just a quick way of organizing your photos. Another maybe better way of organizing our photos is to make named collections or collections that we create. Not quick collections, but they're down here, and this is called collections. So if I want to group my photos within Lightroom, and so you can see I have a pretty random collection of photos in here. There are dogs and people and flowers, some buildings, and just some random stuff. So I can actually group those by creating collections. And this is real handy. This is very useful. So let's make a collection that's called, how about dogs? So I'll create a collection called dogs. So we create that, and there's nothing in it. So we could just select the dogs, not those guys, and just drag them into this collection. And now I have 4 photos in this collection. And it doesn't change them, and it doesn't make a new folder on our desktop. See, all the folders are still the same. It's only in Lightroom that we're seeing this. Let's make another collection, say, called flowers. It's an easy one. So I'll create that, and then I'll just select flowers. That's a mushroom, that's not a flower. And we have a few down here. And we'll just drag them. Oops. And drag all these guys. All right. Let's start over. So flowers. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. There we go. And put them in the flowers. So again, we're starting to organize our photos. See how convenient that is? And there's one more thing that we can do, and this is a little bit more complicated, and it's called a smart collection. And a smart collection makes a collection based on the criteria of a photo. So there's a lot of different criteria for a photo. It could be in the metadata, it could be how you ranked it. And so let's take a quick look at this now, and then we'll take another look at it later. So there's some quick smart collections that are already set up for us. And for instance, it shows the number of photos that were produced just this past month. Right, so I click on that. This shows photos that are from this past month. And then none of the photos have keywords, so it shows all of those. And if I wanted to, I could have a collection of all the photos that are colored red or have 5 stars, but none of the photos have that. How do we do that? How do we give our photos stars or color them red? So let's take a look at that in terms of ranking in our photos. So let's go back to all photos and edit, select none. So here we are, we're in the grid view. If we double click on a photo, we're in the loop view, and we can toggle back and forth between loop and grid down here. We could also look at several photos at a time by going into this view and holding our command key down and selecting 3 or 4 photos or 5 photos, and they all show up for us. And we go back to this, and this is how we unselect photos, edit, select none. So in terms of ranking photos, the first time we did it was to put them in a quick collection, right? So we looked at this little icon in the upper right corner, and we click on that, and that sort of said, well, I like this photo, and I like this photo, and I like this photo. And I made a little quick collection out of them. So that's one way of doing it. It's kind of temporary, but we can also kind of say how much we like our photos by giving them a ranking. And that's just by a matter of selecting a photo and then just type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you give it a star. So if we're going to go through here, and let's say I want to pick out, some of my favorite photos. These are all 5-star photos. So I pick this one, and I go to 5, and I gave it a rating of 5. And I like this one, I give that a rating of 5. And maybe I like another one. So I'll come down here, give this one a 5. And I'll give this one a 5. Right? Select that, give it a 5. So I gave a few photos a 5. Maybe I'll give this one a 5 too. And then if I go into this smart collection, right, it already has this one set up for us. It's called 5 stars. And then there's that smart collection. It's based on photos that were given 5 stars. What if I wanted to set up a smart collection for photos that have only 1 star? I could go to Smart Collection and right-click on it, create a smart collection, And then it comes up with all kinds of criteria, right? And so first of all, I want to name it. I'm going to call it 1 star. And then it's going to be part of the smart collections. And there's all different kinds of ways that I could set it up. So I'm going to set it up so the rating is 1 star. And I'll create that. And there's a collection right down there. Under Smart Collection. It's not under dogs, it's not under flowers, it's under Smart Collection. And so any photo from here on in that I give 1 star will end up in that Smart Collection. So maybe I'll type 1. I'll select a photo, type 1. I gave it 1. I'll hit this one and I'll type 1. Set the rating to 1. I'll do 1 more. Hit 1. And now I've populated this Smart Collection with these 3 photos that all have 1 star. So that's how Smart Collections work. And there's a lot of different criteria that you can use for a Smart Collection. Let's click on it and just look at, if I was going to create a collection, I could base it on the rating, the flag, the color, where it came from, what kind of file it is, when it was, created. So there's a lot of different ways that you can set up Smart Collections. And that might be useful for kind of a long-term thing. Say that in the beginning of the year, you're setting up your folders and your catalog. And then you know that throughout the year you're going to have favorite photos. And you're going to go, I want to remember that one. And you give it 5 stars and it'll end up in this Smart Collection. You don't have to worry about it again. So we're going to cancel this, not create another collection. But that brings us to this whole idea of ranking and labeling our photos. So we just did a couple of ratings. 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star. And that's by just typing in, selecting a photo first, selecting it, and then typing the number 5 on your keyboard. And if I go into Loop View, you can see there's the 5 stars at the bottom of the photo. So I gave this 5 stars. I can change it to 1 star by typing 1. And then it also puts it in this folder, right? See, now it's a 1 star photo. So I'll go back to all photos. So those are called ratings. Now there's more than the numbers 1 through 5 on our keyboard. And then 6, 7, 8, and 9 are called labels. And they're colors. So let's go to this other dog. And if I type 6, I get red. See the red outline? And if I select another photo, and let's say I type 7, I get a yellow outline. And as I move off the photo, the whole border takes on yellow. Kind of yellow. And then if I type 8, I get green. And let's move off of that. There's green. And then 9 is blue. We move off of that. So now these photos are labeled, right? So 1 through 5 are rating, and then 6 through 7 through 8 through 9 are colors, and those are called labels. So we're going through here now, and we're sort of differentiating our photos a couple of different ways. So remember, this is all about file organization. I've dumped all my photos into one folder on my hard drive, but now I want to start to sort them out and organize them a little bit. And the first way I did it was just making a standalone collection. Not a smart collection, but a standalone collection called dogs. And I dragged them all into here. Or I made one called flowers, and I brought them all into here. I could have another one called people. I could have another one called kids. I could have another one called buildings, all different subjects that I photographed. The other way of doing it, is a little bit of review, were smart collections. And there were default smart collections that Adobe gave us automatically. Colored red, 5-star. We made one called 1-star. And by coincidence, there was already one here called colored red. And when we went through and started labeling the photos, that's the photo that we put, we typed in 6. And that got a red label. So that automatically ended up in this smart collection. So smart collections don't require you to actually bring the photo in the collection. If I took a picture of another dog, I would have to actually go into all my photos. I'd have to find that dog photo. I don't think I have one. And I'd have to drag it in to that dog. So it's not automatic. So that's the difference between smart collections and this regular collections. And because we can rank and label our photos, we can also filter them, meaning that we can just look at the photos that might have 1-star or 5-star if we haven't already created a collection for it. So let's say I want to go through and pick out all the photos I want to label green. So I'll pick this one. I type 8, and it's green. And this one, 8, and it's green. And this one, 8, and it's green. Now, I don't have a collection for that. I could create one. But if I just want to see the ones that I've sort of done a kind of a quick and dirty labeling here, I can turn my filters on. See filters? And I turn that on. You can turn it on down the bottom corner. And now I have this new bar. And just by filtering, I can pick all the ones that are green. See? So I filtered all my photos based on a label. What if I want to look at all the photos that have 5 stars? Well, there's none that have 5 stars and a green label. So I have to uncheck that. But these are the ones that have 5 stars. What about 1 star? Right? So these are the photos that have 1 star. What about photos that have 1 star and a blue label? There's one photo. So, complicated enough for you? There's just a lot of different ways of looking at your photos, organizing them, labeling them, and then once you've labeled them or ranked them, then you can play with them. You can start to filter them to see which ones you worked on, or you can make collections for them. And there's one other way of flagging your photos called flagging. And this is a real easy one. You don't have to type anything. You just go into the upper corner of your photo, and there's a little flag there. And if I just flag that one, and I flag that one, and this photo too. So now I flagged 3 photos. And I can say, which ones did I flag? and I just go to the filter. And those are the 3 photos that I flagged. And if I click the flag again, it unflags them. And then I have to click the filter so that I'm not filtering them out anymore. All right, so that's nice and confusing. Let's work through all this again real quickly. So the upper corner is our navigator, and that controls our zoom. So how close we zoom in, and then by dragging a little square around, we can look at different parts of the photo. I'll just have him stare at us there for a little bit. Below our navigator, it shows photos that we brought in, the most recent collection, all the photos we brought in, or if we make a quick collection, which right now is empty, and we make quick collections by clicking on the little red circle in the upper right-hand corner. See, and I made 2 quick collections. I'll go back to all photos. Below that is where our actual files are located, what folder they're in. So I have the raw files, raw file folder, and that's on my desktop. See, it's right here, right there. And then I have the second folder. So I have some photos in that second folder. And I brought my files into Lightroom by using the import button and going to the raw files, which were already on my hard drive. But the second folder, I brought those in from my card, and then I stored them in the second folder. And now they're really there. They're not, they're still on my card, but they're copied into this folder too. Close that. And then we looked at collections, and we made a collection called dogs. And then we dragged our dog photos in here, and we made a collection by hitting the plus sign. So plus, create a collection, and maybe I could do people. I'll create that. I could go back, and where's some people? So here's the people, and I'll hold my command key down. I'll select 3 people, 4 people, several people, and I'll just drag them into my collection. All right, and I'll deselect those. And then we did some ratings. We made some files. We gave them a 5. And we can look at those 5s 2 ways by turning our filter on, right? Or a little button in the bottom, and collecting 5 stars. So those are photos that have 5 stars. Or we're in a smart collection. And the smart collection is based on photos having 5 stars. And we go back to all photos. And then we did a little bit of labeling, 6, 7, 8, 9. And remember, this is how we turn our filters on. It's a hidden little switch down here in the bottom corner. You almost can't see it. And that turns our filters on and off. Now they're off, so we don't see the filter, and we click it, and now it's on. And so we can see how many photos we have. So that's no stars, 5 stars. Click it again, goes to 0. All the photos that are labeled green. All the photos are labeled yellow and green. Click that again. These are just the yellow ones. And so that's labeling. labeling and filtering. Now, to get a little bit more complicated, we love being complicated, let's come down here to the bottom, and we looked at the different ways we can see the photos. This is a comparison, so we can actually compare two photos if we want to. We can look at multiple photos at a time. We can look at photos that have faces in them. I don't usually run that because I can kind of see faces pretty easily, so I don't worry about it too much. But what I want to show you, go back to our grid view, is this little paint can. And this is kind of a funny little function, and it's called Painter. And if we click on Painter, we get this little paint can. And right next to where we got the paint can from, if we click on it again, you can see that it says label. And then it shows us how we want to label the photos. So I could label it red or yellow or whatever. I could also make another decision. I might say, I want all these photos to end up in a target collection, or I want them to have a flag. Let's do something simple. Let's just say a flag. All right. Now, flags are pretty easy. All I got to do is click the flag. But if I have the paint, and I paint that photo, and I paint this photo, and I paint that photo, they automatically get a flag. If I change what the paint does, let's say change it to labeling, and I want to label it blue or purple, I can actually label it purple, even though there's not a number for that. So paint, label, purple, and if I spray them, boom, now I start to get purple labels. My filter's on. I can come up here and I can filter out now all the photos that have purple labels. So, isn't that nice and fun and confusing? So that's what the paint can does. It enables us to just very quickly throw some attributes onto our photos. So now let's switch over to this other side. But before I do that, I have to put my paint can back. And I'll put it back in a circle, and I'll click on it, and now I'm not dragging the paint can around. So this is the right panel. And the right panel contains a lot of information about our file, our individual files. It has the histogram, which shows the distribution of pixels in your photo. It shows the ISO of the photo underneath the histogram, the focal length, the aperture, as well as the shutter speed. Below the histogram is a little panel called Quick Develop. And Quick Develop allows us to change the exposure, contrast, and sort of refine the exposure here. So if I say I'll take this picture of the dog, and I blow it up. And if I want the exposure to be darker, I can just push these buttons and it makes it darker. It's kind of a clumsy way of doing the developing. If we were in the develop module, it's much better. It's sliders. I can correct that. But Library has this Quick Develop. If you want to use it, it's available. There's also a reset, so if you're messing around, you can also just reset it. And here's, this is information about our file in terms of keywording. Keywords are words that are embedded into your file. keyword list, so you can quickly put a keyword in, and then metadata, right? So metadata data about your file. So looking at the metadata panel, these are information, or these are data that were put in to our file, or to my file, by my computer, by my camera. So my camera gave it a file name. I put it in a folder, so we know that this file is in this folder. It has a caption. My camera automatically captions it, Olympus digital file. And that'll show up if I were to export this photo and put it on Facebook. The caption will say Olympus digital file. So that's kind of annoying, but that's what the camera does. So if I want to change it, I might just have to change it to dog. So I change the caption. I can change the title of the photo, Big Eye Dog. But that doesn't change the file name. The file name stays the same. I can change the copyright. So the copyright status is unknown. I can copyright this photo. So now it's copyrighted. I can say who's copyrighted by Brokaw Photography. Get my title case correct here. So now it's copyrighted by Brokaw Photography. So this is all metadata. I can put in the creator, which is Bill Brokaw. I can actually do some labeling and rating here. So if I want to give this 5 stars from the metadata panel, I can do that. See, there's 5 stars there now. I can give it a label. Remember, labels are colors. So if I want to give it blue, right? And so now it has a blue label. So when did I take that picture? I took it at 8 seconds after 47 minutes after 2 o'clock in the afternoon on January 27th, 2019. It doesn't tell you where I was because that wasn't recorded in the file, but I remember I was in loads. It shows me the size of the file, the exposure again down here, same exposure that's up there, and focal length ISO. The flash didn't go off, and then what camera that I used. Now, it doesn't have any GPS coordinates because my camera's GPS receiver was not on, so there's no coordinates in here. So that's the metadata that was added by my camera. And if I want to put in keywords, I can come up here, and this is called keyword tags. I'll pull that down, and I might type in dog. Right? So now my file has a keyword dog, and then that'll stay with it. And just to jump back real quick to our paint, remember paint? So if I click paint and I go to keywords, I can actually put in the word dog. And I can then paint these different photos. Let's put the paint on. And keyword, see keyword dog. And I'll spray paint that one and spray paint that one. And then if I go into those individual photos, I'll zoom out. And I look over here into the keywords, the word dog has been added. So that, I like this, okay? Keywords are actually pretty handy in the long run. Say over the course of a year, you're taking photos of a lot of different things. You can make collections out of them, or you can keyword them. And keywording lets you search. So then you can do a search on certain keywords and bring up all the photos that pertain to that. So that's a little bit about keywording. And then, once you start putting keywords in, it'll give you a list, and you can start throwing those keywords into your photos. So that's a little bit about the metadata and this right panel. And I think that we've pretty much covered a lot of stuff, right? So I'll just do like a quick review here. So there's really a ton of ways of organizing our photos, and it can be kind of confusing. So the best thing to do is to just, to start to think about your photos, and to think about the kind of photos that you take and how you might want to organize them for later reference. Because the day that we take the photos, we know everything there is about them. We know where we were, when we were, what we took a picture of. And then, a week later, we're still pretty good. We know about the photos. But do this for a few months, or you're taking pictures for a few years. And the next thing you know, you have this massive collection of photos that are just all over the place. And so if you get started and you get used to working in the library and you start to organize your photos, maybe just as simple as, the simplest way would be to, put them in their individual folders on your computer. Or if you just want to put it into one big folder, then you can start to make collections of certain topics. If you like to rank your photos and you want to sort of like flag the ones that you like the best or differentiate them, then you can get into smart collections, right? This is where we made one that had 1 star. And in order to make smart collections, we had to actually give attributes to our photos, and that's what labels and stars are. Keywords are attributes too. So is the type of camera that you use. So all this stuff up here is the metadata that's associated with your photo. Or we can just do none and close that all up. So play around with it. Start to see how metadata can work for you. And the next time that we get together, we'll work on the develop module. And we'll end by having this little dog stare at us. So say goodbye, everybody.